clearer than Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. So there's also a debt of legacy that we owe him for his very brilliant calls. And of course, there's enormous missing him nowadays. When I go to a budget party or go to a Diwali party or go to any social gathering, his presence is deeply missed.
Yeah, I remember some of these things, Ramesh, when you told me some time back as well. Sorry, the affinity for Mr. Ramesh Damani makes me call him Ramesh. The respect for him makes me call him Mr. Damani. So I'll intersperse between the two.
Ramesh is fine, Neeraj.
Just the respect that I have for you.
Thank you.
But yeah, and I believe all of us had that respect for him as well, for his uncanny ability to make calls. You've been brilliant on that as well. And I'd love to end this piece with some of your thoughts, which kind of emanate between a thought process that maybe the two of you might have formed together also, who knows. But, you know, one of the most vivid memories of the first conversations that we did after his unfortunate demise was you telling me that he fashioned mud into jars, wherein other people fashioned mud into bowls. Now, I would love to understand this in some more detail in the current context. I mean, what would you think you would do currently? What would you think he would have done when the India opportunity is expanded the way it has right now? I'd love to understand how you think he would have thought about the opportunity that has come right now, because it's not just domestic money that is shaping the gains, but it's also domestic companies, red PSUs, which are marching ahead, while it's not necessarily everything else which is doing so well.
Well, you know, Neeraj, we've had time to now reflect on his career, and his brilliant career is, I think his long-term compounding rate, from what I calculated, was in dollar terms above 40%. And we really, you know, pillar Warren Buffett for doing it at, you know, 24% long-term. So he was heads and shoulders above everybody else in his class. So we'll grant him that. But I think the two things that stand out about Rakesh Bhaiya is the first, that he had this unique belief in India. And I think that shaped a 30-year career that he had in the stock market, that he always had only one mantra: always be bullish on India, never be not bullish on India. So no matter where the market fell, market, you know, went sideways, he always remained consistently bullish, and he was never afraid to express that by backing Indian promoters, backing Indian companies. I think one of the qualities that I have found over the last 30 years, that what makes between an average investor and a great investor is a great investor is willing to take the risk, is willing to put money on the table. And Rakesh was such a fast study. If he liked a company, in 30 minutes he'd close a deal for 100 crores or 50 crores. He had already studied a lot of business models of business companies. So when a promoter bought it to him, it was not new. And because of now his reputation, they were all, you know, very cognizant of what he liked: the return on capital, good corporate governance, free cash flow, those kind of things. But what astonished me always in the 30 years plus that I've known him is that he's always ready to put money on the table. He's never afraid of a loss. And he realized that to make money, you need to spend the money and make it rise. So he was not trying to be cute, not trying to protect himself, not trying to hedge himself away, not trying to get away from his commitment. He always said very correctly that his word was his bond. And the ability to be bullish over a 30-year period in India, and we've been through very tough cycles in the last 30 years. It's not that we didn't go through Kargil or haven't had a gold exported or haven't had, but he always felt that progress would come incrementally, but it would be in favor. The arc would lean towards progress in India. And he was absolutely right about that. He was absolutely right about putting money on the table and betting on unknown promoters, because some of them have created absolutely extraordinary companies. And if there was, as you say, a bull market foretold, he foretold it. And even in the depths of when he was in the hospital, when we visited him in the last few years of his life, even when he could barely speak to me, he would whisper and tell me, "Ramesh, don't be bearish on India." He would always admonish me not to be bearish on India. So extraordinary legacy, and I'm really happy that we're celebrating such a happy occasion of his birthday.
Yeah, I remember one of the interviews. I mean, I didn't have the fortune of doing too many interviews with him, but 4 or 5 maybe. But in one of them, he had said that I see a picture of India that is vastly different from how maybe others see it, and this was way back. You think this is how he thought of India coming out? I mean, third largest economy, third largest stock market or fourth largest stock market, but en route to becoming arguably the largest or the second largest in the world. Is this something that he would have foreseen way back? Because 2015, India was materially different from India in 2024.
It's hard to believe that, but he did see it. He had a premonition, and even in the last few years of his life, maybe he had a premonition. He would tell me, Ramesh, I may not live to see it, but what I'm telling you is going to happen to India, you will not believe what's happening. Today is fairly common knowledge or common belief to talk about India being from a third world country to the third largest country, to India to be the largest growth economy among all major economies, is fairly common. Domestic investors are such an important part of the industry flow now. It's very common. But this man had the courage and the vision, not only to see it, but also to act on it. So the fact that he emerged the other side, and despite 2 years, his portfolio being basically static, it has outperformed the market over, I think, pretty substantially, which shows the kind of businesses that he bought and the businesses that he held on to, and the wide variety, starting from Titan, which is obviously a gold jackpot to use these words, or this new startup called Akasa Airline, which is now making a serious dent in Indian aviation. Being an extraordinary stock picker, extraordinary understanding of markets, and I just feel, and I just say that on a personal note, that the price he paid for success was his health, and unfortunately he didn't live to see the full unfolding of the glory of his portfolio, of the country, of the new house that he built up. So I do feel sad about that. But in terms of legacy of learning, living, understanding, I don't think there can be a better teacher.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not the derivation, but you spend a lot of time with your next of kin and your grandkids. And I remember you telling me that Rakesh Jhunjhunwala always used to say that, one thing that I haven't done is spent enough time with my kids because his kids were very young. So
yeah.
You kind of doing that. One more question. The one telling other thing was that you always told me that back up the truck and buy was something that you learned from him. He used to do that very well. You reckon that in a market as diverse as it is right now, you are currently doing the same, Ramesh, that backing up the truck and buy because the opportunity size is so large. You've told me in the past that your famous line that why you regret not being a billionaire, but are you changing some of those things now based on his learnings from him or otherwise?
Well, first to come back to my grandchildren, as I've often told you, I really enjoy my time with Veer and Arna, and unfortunately he didn't get that much quality time that he would have hoped to and not see his kids grow up. That is also a real privilege in life. I've learned a lot from Rakesh Bhaiya and from a lot of other mentors in the stock market. And one of the things was, of course, backing up the truck and buying it. And while I'm getting incrementally better, have I been able to be a good pupil to his teachings? I probably haven't. I probably have fallen short. He would have been happy, but he wouldn't have been overjoyed because, I've still come from a background where, you're plagued with doubt, whether this will work or not work, whether there'll be a party or there won't be a party, whether the bull market will sustain or not sustain. But Rakesh never brooked any doubts. He was so clear in his thinking, so clear in his thought. When he put money on the table, he had complete confidence in the promoter, in the company, in the business, Well, I am plagued a little by self-doubt. So while I think if I give myself marks, have I gotten better? Yes. Am I at the level I should be? No.
Hashtag like hand woven or handmade in India or textile made by hand or craft clusters or hand block printing, it's become a marketing gimmick as well. It's very easy to create a story without having the actual backend to support it. So I think in this kind of a space, when when there's a huge interest in what is created by hand and actual artisanal products, we should have some checks in place so that when somebody says that this is khadi, it should be a khadi, and when we are talking about hand block printing, it should be a hand block printing and not a digital print being passed as a hand block printed.
When the whole day passes like a blur, the news just whizzes past. and you're trying to stay informed. It is our job to bring you news that truly matters. At Profit 360, we cut through the clutter, the Long Street deals, finance and policy news that could shape your tomorrow. The newsmakers, the trendsetters, and the innovators. In 30 minutes, we've got you covered. So stay ahead, stay informed, and stay profitable with Profit 360.
Specific PIN codes are not basically given insurance. Specific occupations are not provided insurance. People who do not have educational qualifications undergraduate are not provided insurance. So in short, term insurance is a very elite product for a country like India. Right?
Okay.
If you look at the percentage of people, when you cut down all these cuts, like when you put all these cuts into picture, it will not be even 1% of the population of India.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Let's be real, guys. There are many financial experts out there.
I have one final question, and I'll ask you to maybe elicit one more famous memory or one more favorite memory, because we've asked this to you so many times. You've spoken about this on various occasions, a number of memories. But if I were to ask you, because we are celebrating a happy day of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, if you had to share one happy memory, maybe you've said it in the past as well, doesn't matter, but one happy memory.
Well, I'll tell you one poignant memories and one happy memory, because I think people don't know that, but when Bhaiya passed away, we had a prayer ceremony at the Bombay Stock Exchange. And after that, a lot of his friends, 15, 20, 30 were his closest friends, wanted some way to celebrate his life and remember him, not in mourning, but in happiness. So a lot of us went down to a pub, which was his favorite, called Jeffrey's in Marine Drive. And we drank a pint there or two in his honor. And we all cheered, because that's the way he would want it. That's the way he cheered everyone else, and that's the way he would want it. So he felt almost like a duty to do that after the prayer ceremony and remember him the way that he wished to be remembered. So that is the poignant memory. I think the happiest I see him was, of course, when his children were born. He is gifted with 3 children. I think when they were born, he threw, of course, these loud, lavish parties that he was famous for. Invited pretty much who's who of the town to those parties. And he just, was just so happy. One more memory he was very happy was his 50th birthday, which he took us all to Mauritius. And we started a trend of, celebrating the big milestone birthdays, 50, 60, 70. But in those occasions, I've seen a rare, softer side for him, a man who's not only focused on markets, but focused on his friends, focused on his family, focused on enjoyment. So it was nice that the story of his life is history of the Indian stock market, and I'm glad I was a witness to that story.
Yeah, and if there is a lasting impression to your mind that his I mean, he was unequivocally, to my mind, the voice of the Indian stock market. Times were very troubled. He would come in, he would say things. People would certainly start viewing some tough moments also differently. But to your mind, the lasting legacy of a Rakesh Jhunjhunwala on Indian markets, is it stay bullish on India always, don't bet against India? Is it something else? What do you think?
It clearly is that. I think if you, the ability to take risks, of course, is there. The ability to think independently is, of course, there. But I think if you take a dominant stream of what carried him through and allowed him to keep placing the bets he did. I mean, remember when he came in the 80s in India, Neeraj, the income tax rate was 90% plus. There was wealth tax in India. India was a closed economy. But he kind of foresaw that the tax rates would go down, that the trading systems would become efficient, that tariffs would fall down, that India would integrate to the global economy. After the Berlin Wall, he was pretty sure about it. And he betted accordingly. So this idea stemmed from that basic belief in a set, I remain bullish on India, everything that will happen will be good in India. And that was true irrespective of the governments that was in power. It was not that he was wedded to a particular government. He knew that every government in a democratically elected country would have to bring progress and growth and GDP growth for its public. And so only good things would happen. So it was this belief, I think, that was transmitted to me. After many years, it takes very hard to be that optimistic and that much of a soldier in the belief that you were. It took me a long time hanging around persons like him that made me realize the kernel of truth that he's expressing, that a country with 140 crore people, that kind of size, I mean, the size of India is so enormous that we're just coming to grapple with it. We can open a few million demat accounts every day. We just have that size out there. He kind of understood that before. So I would say that his lasting contribution, other than the great picks he made and the great parties he threw, was also that he taught us, remain bullish on this country, remain invested, and try and have independence of thought in what you approach the market, and which I also practice. I mean, we used to have a lot of discussions on my stocks was his stocks or my outlook was his outlook, but that was all in the fun and game.
Got it. I have one final question before we wrap up this conversation. Maybe it's a slightly difficult one, but I'm asking you, if you had to think, I mean, if there is one thing that you think about India for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, by putting yourself in his shoes or thinking the way you think, yes, but also some inspiration from him, if I can use that term, what would that one thing be? It could be about India's growth, it could be about the markets, it could be about anything else. But something about India as you see it for the next 25 years, inspired from Rakesh Jhunjhunwala.
Well, I think what he taught us was that we need to always remain invested, okay? And while markets are cyclical, they'll go up and down, and there are periods in which you can buy and sell. But broadly, you want to remain invested in the market. So I think and not only him, the other greats of the stock market, I've asked them this question in multiple ways. And the ways is, okay, you've been in this market 4 decades, which is the best decade that you've seen? Was it when liberalization happened? Was it in the tech boom? Or was it now? The answer question. And both of them would answer, or all of them would answer with the same breath, that the next decade is the best. So I've come back with that phrase that, the best time to invest in India was, of course, in 1991. When Manmohan Singh stepped up and gave the famous liberalization budget for the interim government. That changed the trajectory of our country, and now it's absolutely clear as you look back 30 years that that's what the trigger point was. The next best time to invest in India, and I'm sure Rakesh would agree with me on this, is today. Because you can't win this game if you don't play this game. Unless you invest, you're not going to profit from it. So I would suggest what he would say is that be bullish on this country. This country is a unique opportunity to become the third or the second largest economy over the next 20, 30 years. And you need to participate in that economy in full measure. And whether he says it or whether I now repeat him as a parrot, I also tend to believe that. While occasionally we'll move for cash, we'll move from one stock to the other stock, we enduring remain bullish that only good will happen in this country. I think that's the lesson I've learned from him, and that's the lesson I'd like to pass on to the next generation, that you need to remain invested. To win this game, you've got to play this game. If you're going to be scared of volatility, which is the nature of the beast, it will happen every day. I mean, right now the market's going up. On June 4th, it was going down. Volatility is the nature of the beast. So don't be scared of volatility in the market. Be scared of permanent loss of capital. And I think luckily we're on a good wicket that we won the ovarian lottery by being Indians, as Warren Buffett might say. But luckily, I think we're in the right place at the right time. So my advice to everyone is, this is as good time to invest. I've been asked this question so many times at 40,000 the index, 50,000 the index, 60,000 index. Is it too high to invest? Isn't the market gone up too much? If I got a few dollars for that every time, I'd be a billionaire. I would have come up through my limitations, Neeraj. But having said that, you could look at the index at 6 figures and say, oh my God, is it too high now? So, that's a mug's game. I don't want to play that. I want to remain bullish. I want to remain invested. Advice I got from Bhaiya, advice I also believe in.
Yeah, and advice that you're passing on to me, I would love to be thought of as the next generation from your perspective, because I just learn so much from you every time I hear you elsewhere or get a chance to talk to you. A bit of how Ashok might see you, Ashok is Ramesh Damani's son, is how I see you, Ramesh Damani. Thank you so much for joining us on such a momentous occasion and sharing some of those thoughts.
You're too kind to me, but thank you so much. And we all, salute Bhaiya on his birthday.
Most
I think it's a good occasion to remember him. And, I'll end with a quotation which I like to say about him. It goes that a teacher affects eternity because you never know where his influence stops. I think Bhaiya affected by his teachings a generation of stock market people, and they will carry his ideas on because he had, that he had n number of turtles, people who he mentored, people who he paid. And I've been, Neeraj, I must tell you this before we end, I've been to innumerable 40th birthdays and 50th birthdays, and to a person when I've been there, they've always said, and thank you, Rakesh Bhaiya, for helping me in my career. Without you, I couldn't have done it. So he had that kind of influence and that broad influence. So like a great teacher, he will hopefully affect eternity also.
Most certainly. We may not have a pint, but we have a glass. So let's raise a toast to the great Rocky on his 64th.
Absolutely. Nostradamus.
Nostradamus. Okay, let's nickname him for the next time. Thank you so much for joining in and speaking about it today, Ramesh Damani.
My pleasure, Neeraj.
When the whole day passes like a blur, the news just whizzes past, and you're trying to stay informed. It is our job to bring you news that truly matters. At Profit 360, we cut through the clutter, the Wall Street deals, finance and policy news that could shape your tomorrow. The newsmakers, the trendsetters, and the innovators. In 30 minutes, we've got you covered. So stay ahead, stay informed, and stay profitable with Profit 360.
Hashtag like handwoven or handmade in India or textile made by hand or craft clusters or hand block printing, it's become a marketing gimmick as well. It's very easy to create a story without having the actual backend to support it. So I think in this kind of a space, when when there's a huge interest in what is created by hand and actual artisanal products, we should have some checks in place so that when somebody says that this is khadi, it should be a khadi, and when we are talking about hand block printing, it should be a hand block printing and not a digital print being passed as a hand block printed.
The good part of growth assets is that the more you have, the better your choices are, right? So nothing like money in the bank to sleep well at night, whether it's a medical emergency or that cruise you want to take. I think gone are the days where we think about a simple life in, a rural community. People want vibrant post-retirement lives with travel, with socializing with friends. Maybe you eat out a few times less, but should you see the Eiffel Tower while you can? I think you should. Asset allocation will change as you age, but certainly you need growth assets in your portfolio. You have a great year, you withdraw it, you go for a cruise on the Riviera. I mean, that's life, right? Most parents would like to leave something for their children, but I think that should just be a byproduct of what's left after you've done everything that you choose to do.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Let's be real, guys. There are many financial experts out there. Which stocks to target? What's good for long term? When to buy? When to sell? How do you stay ahead of all the financial noise to achieve your dreams?
You can
Markets off lows to trade flat. Nifty trades above 24,200 levels. Meanwhile, Sensex trades below 80,000 mark. Sectoral action mixed, dragged by financials and realty. Pharma emerges as the top gaining sector, followed by FMCG and oil and gas. HDFC Bank falls over 4% in trade after the bank reported decline in gross advances and CASA deposits. And UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak conceded defeat in the general election as Keir Starmer's Labour Party crosses majority 326 mark to form the government. Hello and welcome. You're watching Market IQ on NDTV Profit. I'm Smriti Chaudhary. Let's take stock of the markets. The Nifty 50 down in trade, down about 0.1%, has paired some losses there, currently trading above 24,200 mark. And let's pull up the contributors of the Nifty 50 and you will see there's one particular stock that's dragging the index down, which is HDFC Bank, losing ground as we speak as well. On the other side, where you have Reliance Industries, L&T and ONGC in the positive. On the broader end of the spectrum, you have the mid-cap index up about 0.5%, doing better than what the benchmark is doing, and the small-cap index up about 0.8% as well. On the sectoral front, you have Nifty Bank dragging almost 1% in trade. There's Nifty Consumer Durables also in the red, along with Nifty Realty, that's now down about 0.3%. On the other hand, on the greens, you have Nifty Auto doing fairly well, mostly flattish as we speak. You have Nifty Energy up about over 1%. Healthcare Index, Pharma, Oil and Gas up over 1% right now. Let's talk about some specific stocks as well. You have the let's start off with Raymond. That's up 15% in trade. This comes on the back of a approval of the demerger of the realty business with the swap ratio of 1:1. So if you hold one share of Raymond, you get one share in the realty business as well. Based on some first quarter business updates, you have ESF Small Finance Bank doing not too much, about 0.5% up in trade. You have Shilpa Medicare, that's up about 16% right now. Poonawalla FinCorp pretty much flattish right now. RBL Bank slipped in the red, down about 1.5% also after the first quarter update. However, the story for the day continues to be HDFC Bank. The stock is down over 4% in trade today. This comes after the lender posted a muted set of numbers in the first quarter update. But is the slope getting steeper for HDFC Bank? My colleagues Vishwanath Nair and Harsh join in to put these numbers in perspective. Guys, take it away.
Right, thanks so much for that. Let's, Vishy, try and break this down. First off, just with regard to the numbers itself, flat on the deposit growth side of things, but Q4 FY24, the base was higher, 7.5% sequential. That was a very, very strong quarter, a lot of which was back-ended. That was the commentary as well at the end of Q4. So flat on the deposits front otherwise. Is that a very big disappointment? Maybe not. But the real disappointment has come on the advances side of things, Vishy. 0.8% lower in terms of sequential advances in terms of the number. So almost a 1% downtick in terms of advances. And last quarter as well, the growth wasn't very strong. It was a 1.6% growth kind of number sequentially again in Q4 FY24. So on a low base, they've actually degrown. So likely that's where the disappointment has come from. CASA deposits also 5% lower sequentially. Of course, that pressure on CASA continues. We're very close to now 35% on the CASA. So tons of pressure here. But Vishy, what's really standing out for you in terms of these numbers?